I remember I would always think that people were smarter than me because they could read faster than me. They seemed to be getting more information quicker than I was in class, and it was very obvious to me. Hello everybody, it is Dingle here and welcome back to my channel. How are y'all doing? I hope y'all are doing super duper well, and thank you for clicking on my video. If you are a current subscriber, you know that I have been doing this whole opening up on the internet type of series thing, and I'm really pumped about it because it gets me talking about subjects that make me overall me and things that I don't get to talk about in the other content that we do on this channel. So yeah, I've been really pumped about it. And from the comments, it seems like you all are enjoying it too, so if that's still the case, make sure you comment below that you are still enjoying it and maybe other topics that you all want to see me cover. And if you're new, before we get started, don't forget to hit the red subscribe button, and without further ado, let's get into the video. So I live stream nearly every single Saturday, and a lot of you are gonna comment that I don't live stream every single Saturday. There are some cases where I've been traveling or just really busy, so I apologize for all of you that have been asking. I'm so sorry. I see you, and I will continue soon. But the goal is on Saturdays I stream The Sims. The last stream that we had, I got into a conversation with a few of you about ADHD, and we found that we actually have a lot in common about it, and one of you had asked me to make a video about my story, my journey with it. I said, yeah, that's a great idea, and here we are today. Before we dive into the details of my journey with ADHD, I do want to say that when I look back on it, I don't have a lot of traumatic experiences about ADHD or anything like that, but when I do look back on it, there are a lot of struggles that came with having ADHD growing up as a child, and also that bled into my everyday adult life and current adult life. So I do realize there are a lot of struggles when looking back at it that I would like to share in case anyone can resonate with them, but I also know that there are a lot of upsides to having ADHD, so I wouldn't change a thing. But again, maybe some of those struggles and upsides people can resonate with. So hi. As you may be able to guess, ADHD makes it very difficult to tell stories in like an orderly fashion, and a lot of you have noticed that on my videos and my vlogs and my live streams and things like that, so I apologize in advance, but I'm going to do my best to tell this story chronologically and make it make sense for you. But let's start here. I was diagnosed with ADHD my senior year of high school, just before going into college. I know, pretty late in the game compared to a lot of people who have been diagnosed with ADHD. But what's actually so interesting about ADHD in young girls and women is that it goes undiagnosed most of the time because we don't show the obvious outward symptoms that most boys or men show with ADHD. Also, just an insert here, again, like jumping kind of all over the place, but just real quick. I am no doctor or specialist or ADHD like study student. So all the things that I'm saying about ADHD either come from my own experience or things that my doctors and diagnosis specialists have told me about ADHD. Just want to put that in there. Okay, we'll continue now. So again, a lot of the symptoms that girls or women show are very different than those that boys or men show. They're not as outward as boys or men that have ADHD. For girls and women, it actually tends to be a lot of symptoms that show up here internally rather than outward. You know, can't sit still, running around everywhere, showing outward physical symptoms. We tend to show a lot of it up here, but you can't really see it. So that's why it's so hard. Looking back though, school growing up was very difficult for me. It continued to be difficult in my adult life, but we'll start at like a young age. I remember I would always think that people were smarter than me because they could read faster than me. They seemed to be getting more information quicker than I was in class, and it was very obvious to me. I remember specifically with reading. In third grade, we used to like break off into reading groups, and how it would work is we would all read like one paragraph of a book, and then when everyone was done, we would like look up and talk about it. And I was always the last person to finish reading, unless they were all faking it, but like everyone would like kind of come up at the same time, or like, you know, like they'd finish reading their paragraph at like just very close together, and I would never be done, so I would just pretend that I would be done and wouldn't really be able to answer the questions. My teacher actually, like, it scarred me for life, and I will never forget this. She told me that I have to work on my reading speed, like in front of the class, like in front of like my group of like kids that we were sitting with. She told me that, and I just remember from there on out just pretending that I was done reading. It was horrible. I also had a lot of trouble paying attention in class. Here's another example. I think it was like 4th grade. We were learning about constellations, you know, the star pictures in the sky. And we probably had been talking about it for like 2 days or so. From the teacher's reaction of what I'm about to tell you, it seems like we've been talking about it for a while, but again, I don't know. I wasn't paying attention. She said this like big word. She said constellation. And I felt this surge of courage because I always felt like I was dumber than everyone. I never really asked a lot of questions, but I raised my hand and I asked, what's a constellation? The class was silent. Like I like think about it and my heart starts beating really quickly. Like the class was absolutely silent. The teacher then proceeded to point to a student and say, Stephanie, can you fill in what a constellation is for Mac? It was horrible. Yeah, that was not fun at all. School was hard. School was tough as a child. School was tough. As you can imagine, this made school really hard for me as a young lad because I always felt like I had to work 10 times harder than everyone sitting next to me to understand the same concepts because I had to work so hard to pay attention or gain the information the same way or as quickly as they would. This continued on into high school when the person sitting next to me might study for 2 hours and get their A+, and I would study for like 6 hours and scrape by with a B-. And I remember this being extremely discouraging for me, especially when junior year rolled around and everyone was talking about like GPAs and SAT scores as they relate to college, and everyone was pretty open about it. I just obviously noticed that my GPA or my SAT scores were nowhere near some of my friends' scores were. Tests were also really difficult, both in elementary and high school. I don't think I remember a single test where I answered all of the questions on time, so I would either need to leave them blank or I would rush to put in just any answer I could think of. But also because reading, I don't read as quickly as the average person, and also thinking through and organizing information was very difficult, so tests were not the best thing ever. So it was around senior year of high school, and my brother was already formally diagnosed with dyslexia, and he had gone to do the neurological testing at this group in Massachusetts that we went to, Massachusetts or New Hampshire, somewhere around our hometown. My mom thought it would be a good idea, and she asked me if I wanted to also get formally tested for anything. We had no idea what they would find, but we did notice that the same symptoms that my brother was having as he was growing up in school were again a lot more outward and easy for her to be like, oh, let's go get tested. But she did notice some subtleties that were very similar between my brother and I, so that's when I went to get formally tested, which I was diagnosed with ADHD on the attentive side as well as dyslexia. So that also explained the whole reading and spelling situation that I've been struggling with. Everybody always asks me if getting formally diagnosed changed the way I thought about things or changed any actions I was taking with my ADHD or dyslexia. It actually made me feel better that there was an explanation, and also contrary to popular belief, nobody was pushing me to do meds or, you know, medication for ADHD or anything like that. I made it very clear up front that I wasn't interested in things like that, but I wanted more organic, natural like tips and tricks and techniques to walk away with rather than medicating myself right off the bat. So they were really, really good about that. But if you are somebody that doesn't want to jump straight to medication, again, nothing is wrong with that, but just let your doctor know up front or whoever's doing testing or anything like that, and if they have a problem with that, then they're clearly not the right doctor. I've had very positive experiences with my preference against medicine right away. As part of the neuropsych testing, not only did I get a diagnosis and all the fun little papers that like came with that, but they also gave me a lot of really helpful tips that I'm gonna say right here just in case any of these help anyone or in case you've tried them and know that they help you as well. So this pertains more to school, but also it can pertain in the working world as well. So if you need to study for something or memorize something, we take a lot of notes throughout our days as students or working professionals, and so if you have to recall that information or bring it back for a presentation or a test or anything like that, my way of studying was just rewriting the notes. I would gather all the notes from that section or whatever I needed, and then I would literally just write them without any pressure to memorize them. That's the biggest thing. Like if my mind started going down the path of like, oh my god, these are so many notes, I will never memorize these, this is too much, then obviously that was very counteractive. Is that the word, counteractive? Counterintuitive? It like reversed it, basically. Without any pressure of knowing that you're gonna memorize these, just write them. Just write them as many times as you'd like. Maybe I would do it 2 to 3 times, and it actually helped me memorize them by physically writing them out. So that's my actual favorite one. The biggest thing that helped me when it came to writing papers was writing an outline for the paper before beginning the paper. For a lot of you, this might be a duh moment, but for me, it wasn't. I never did that outline or anything like that. My mind just kind of wanted to jump right into into the paper, but my mind also has a very difficult time organizing things in sequential order. So having an outline and sticking to that and maybe making bullets under each, like, you know, like, oh, intro, thesis, like things like that helped so much when it came to actually writing the content. Like writing the content after the outline was a breeze and a half. And then this tip was actually the most surprising one. I didn't think I would get a tip like this out of something like this. It was to make sure that I am doing something creative every single day, something that my brain loved to do. So it might not be creative for everybody. My brain, it just turns out from the testing, is very creative. I love building things. I love decorating, just anything creative that is not 2 + 2 = 4. And they did make it clear, maybe someone else's brain does like 2 + 2 = 4 type of thing. So whatever that is for you, whatever you love, make sure you're doing that every single day or making time for it every single day. Because our brains with ADHD, if we are doing stuff all day with our brains that we don't necessarily love or we're not giving our brains a break, it can just get so fried. It's really important to make space for the stuff that we like to do. I finished up my senior year, I head off to college, all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and I hit a freaking wall. I remember the first test in college that I got back was a D. I'm not joking, it was a 65. And I was torn apart. I remember calling my mom crying. I was never gonna pass this class. I was never gonna pass any class. Therefore, I was never gonna graduate college because school overall was too stupid for me and everyone around me knows exactly what they're doing and I am the only one that is this dumb. Spoiler alert, none of that happened. I made it all the way through junior year, first semester, working my absolute tail off. I remember my friends being able to like hang out during the week, especially freshman year and sophomore year. They would like hang out and text and say where they were, etc. And I would primarily be found in the library or somewhere quiet where I was studying, writing all of my notes, studying for tests, writing papers, just because it took so long for me to do these tasks and I needed absolute silence. But after all of that work, I still was not making the best grades. So that's when second semester I entertained the idea of medication. It literally took me about 4 years to even entertain the idea of medication, and I'm telling you, it might not be the right choice for everyone, and I'm not saying what choice is good for everybody, but it changed my educational life. And that's honestly an understatement. So I was able to now focus, I was keeping up with everybody, and papers were now a breeze because I was able to organize my thoughts so quickly, and to put sentences together was so much easier now. And I will say this, if you don't have ADHD, taking this medication won't help you. That's something that my doctor did tell me. If my brain did not work this way, then the medication would obviously have a different effect on my brain. It was also second semester of junior year that I got extra time on tests. I had to go to the formal like office educator people with my diagnosis and write up a whole thing, and like it took a lot of work to get it. But between extra time on tests and the medication, I went from a 2.5 at the end of my first semester junior year to a 3.0 by graduation. I remember opening that, like I'm like getting teary-eyed thinking about it. I remember my heart beating so fast the summer after I graduated college, opening my final report card that would then tell me like my final GPA, and I saw it was a 3.09 something, and I remember just like crying because that 3.0 might not seem like a big deal to anybody, but that 3.0 was like my 4.0. So post-college, I was still taking the medication, but only for about a year or so, and then I realized it was actually not helping anymore. It was making me more anxious and it was making my heart beat faster. Obviously, your brain makeup and the chemicals and the way it's wired changes all the time, so it just seemed like the medication was not something that was for me anymore, so I simply just stopped. So I would say I'm now well into adulthood, as they say it. I've graduated college and I don't take medication anymore. Obviously, I still have ADHD, I still have dyslexia, but I can definitely tell you that living with ADHD as an adult isn't easy, especially as a woman with ADHD. The sense of having to work 10 times harder than the person sitting next to me at work just to keep up with everybody, it's so real just because it seems like everybody else is getting things done much faster and easier than you, and you always have to feel like you need to make up for something. And also, if I make a mistake, I feel like everybody's eyes are on me, or that the mistake is like catastrophic because I'm constantly trying to not make any mistakes, because in my perception, I think that everyone else is doing a damn good job and I'm just like treading water over here. But in reality, the mistake is either not a mistake at all or not even a big deal, so nobody actually notices. I also can't go into something not prepared, whether it's talking to somebody about something that I would want to prepare for, or doing math on the spot, crunching numbers. For most conversations or most meetings, if I don't have time to prepare, I just cannot speak adequately to the subject. I always have to make sure that I leave myself time to prepare for situations that it seems like other people wouldn't necessarily need as much time to prepare for. I do have to say, having a job where you have to keep track of 10,000 things and they're all moving at like different speeds and in different directions is super challenging for me, and it causes a lot more stress than I'd like. But doing things like preparing and spending time with tasks makes me feel more on top of a job where 10,000 things are flying all over the place. And having my YouTube and Instagram outside of stuff like work is so important to me and so needed. There will be weeks where it's just so crazy busy and I don't get to post as much as I want to on Instagram, or I don't get to make the number of videos that I'd like to put out on my channels. And during those weeks, I just feel so bogged down and out of control because I didn't give my brain the creative break that it needed from the stuff that it doesn't like to do. So when I say how much I appreciate you all being part of this little community we have on the internet, I don't think you understand how much I appreciate it. So thank you. You guys liking my photos, watching my videos, commenting what you like to see, updating me on your lives, that, like, I can't tell you how happy it makes me. So again, thank you. So that is my journey from childhood up until right now with ADHD. I would like to thank the individual that had the idea of making this video. I hope it helped you personally and any other people that could resonate with what I have talked about today. Let's not let the conversation end there. Let's chat about it in the comments below. I would love to read and chat with you guys down there. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe if you are new, and keep suggesting other things that you would like me to talk about on this Opening Up on the Internet series. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time. See you later. Bye!